Hello, and welcome to a Satisfactory tutorial video. Today we're going to be going over some tips for building clean belts. Just a reminder though that clean belts aren't necessarily a requirement. If you want to build a big spaghetti mess and are able to keep track of it all, you are the ruler of your own factory. But if you're looking for ways to get nice clean belts, be sure to stick around. And if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. I plan to make more videos like these in the future. Tip number 1 is to always build on foundations when you can. Early game, this might be tough with the resources that you have. Oftentimes my early factories are just a big spaghetti mess with belts going kind of everywhere. Then I'll, pack stuff up and build a nice proper factory with nice foundations. You're going to want to look for limestone nodes. These will give you concrete. All you need to do is set up a miner and a constructor, and then put a box in front of it. Another reason to build on foundations, and I'd say the main reason, is that the conveyor poles are going to snap 2 points on these foundations. See how they're kind of moving in, I believe, 1 meter increments? So if I put it on the ground, the alignment is going to be all funky. Okay, I could put like one here and then one here. So that's going to, for sure, keep your belts nice and organized. Next tip is the 90-degree rule of 2. So this is how you get those sweet, sexy 90-degree turns. You're gonna, wherever you're starting from, you're gonna go 2 steps on the foundation, and then 2 steps on the foundation. And then that's going to give you a 90-degree turn every gosh darn time. And it doesn't have to be, 2 and 2. If I take, this and I want to extend it that way. If I go 2 steps, it's on this seam. So if I come all the way back here, this is going to be a 90-degree turn as well. Something else that might be a little misleading is if you hold control. So if I take this and I hold control, it's going to try and align with this. It's going to try and align, with this conveyor pole, but this is even with that pole. We want to do our rule of 2. So if I'm like, okay, this is where this is aligned. This is where it is aligned. If I go 1, 2 over, this is going to be another 90-degree turn. And this is something that's, as you play the game more, as you lay more 90-degree turns, you just have to practice and get better at it. And with more practice, you're going to be laying these 90-degree turns like a pro in no time. Tip number 3 is how to use poles, stackable poles, and the wall holes to better make a bus. So oftentimes you're going to want to make, long lengths of belt where you're transporting goods, and maybe you need a couple extra belts to get you on your way. Belts actually go a total of 7 foundations, so if you have to go more than 7 foundations, you're going to have some segments to take care of. So there's 2 ways, there's infinite ways, but there's 2 main ways you could do it. One is to use these stackable poles. And what I like to do is I like to just lay the first belt, if I'm ever doing a big stackable pole thing, lay the first belt, and then I can use the regular poles to kind of align where I'm supposed to put these. So if I have a big long line, I just go, the bottom belt to the max, and then I put stackable poles anytime there's a regular pole. And this will be the most compact. There'll be a lot more walking space, but it can look a little bit silly, being a big giant tower of stackable poles. So the other thing that we can use is the wall conveyors. Now there are 3 types of wall conveyors. One is just in the middle. The second one will be, you know, one on either side. And then in a bus situation, you'd probably use the third one, which is 3 across. And again, every 7 foundations, you could use one of these to make a nice bus. Something else to note is if you want to stack these, it's going to go 2 levels up. So as you can see, this is kind of, you know, not really aligned with anything. But up here, we're kind of aligned with this guy up here. So it's gonna go too high, and if that doesn't bother you, if you'd rather do it this way, you can. But again, it's up to you. You are the ruler of your factory. Next thing I want to go over is some of the not so obvious build controls. If you press F, that'll bring up your deconstructor. That's a pretty obvious control, but something that a lot of people, you know, don't realize is middle mouse will actually sample the building. So instead of having to go through the build menu, you know, look for belt, you can just sample it with your middle mouse button. I'm looking at it, middle mouse, now I'm building belts. And if I press F again, it'll clear it. Go back to the deconstruct menu, and I want this stackable conveyor pole, middle mouse, and I can bring it over here. Boom. Bing, bang, boom. It's done. And then I can go back to the conveyor belt. Also, if you want to change level of belt or building type quickly, if you have something selected already, you can just hold E, and that'll bring up a wheel. So you can make a selection, or you can cycle through them by pressing E. So this brought up Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, Mark V. This also works with the conveyor poles. So if I have a conveyor pole, I press E, it goes to stackable. I press E again, it goes to wall mount, which you can unlock in the awesome shop, but I don't have a wall here. Yeah, you can see it there. Or E again for the lift hold, which you can also unlock in the awesome shop. And finally, for this video about belts, I want to talk about the belts themselves. So there are 5 different levels of belts in Satisfactory. You have your Mark 1s, which carry 60 items per minute, your Mark 2s, which carry 120 items per minute, Mark 3s, which carry 270 items per minute. I had to grab that from the brain. Mark 4s, which carry 480 items per minute, and Mark 5s, which carry 780 items per minute. Generally, I find it easier to use the odd number belts when compared to the even number belts. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is if you go to your inventory, level 1 belts require iron plates. They stack to 200. Level 2 belts require reinforced iron plates. They stack to 100. Level 3 belts require steel beams. They stack to 200. Level 4 belts require encased industrial beams, and those stack to 100. And then level 5s were back at 200 with the aluminum clad sheets. And also, in my opinion, the odd number belt materials are a lot easier to make than the even number belt materials, except for maybe the aluminum sheets, but you know, that's a top tier item, max throughput, that definitely makes sense. But basically the TLDR of this is going to be skip over level 2 belts as soon as you can, because as you can see here, 3 iron ingots go in to make 2 iron plates. These are going to make your level 1 belts. When we compare that to this recipe over here for the reinforced iron plate, this is for the level 2 belts. So we need 6 iron plate and 12 screws. So already it's 6 times the amount of plates, and that's not even accounting the screws, for only twice the throughput, which, you know, isn't ideal. There are going to be times where level 2 belts are useful if you don't have level 3 belts unlocked, though. Once you have level 3 belts unlocked, you really should be using those over level 2s. because level 3 belts require these steel beams. Now, steel ingots, you might say, ooh, that seems scary. It's not scary at all. All a steel ingot is, one steel ingot is 1 iron ore and 1 coal. And coal's pretty plentiful for the amount of steel that you need. And 1, maybe 2 of these constructors making steel beams has satiated me throughout an entire playthrough, like 30 a minute. And, you know, they're better than the Mark IIs. They use less material, have more than twice the throughput. You're going from 120 with the Mark II to 270 with the Mark III. So, use Mark IIIs over Mark IIs, for sure. Now let's finish up with the last 2 belt levels. So encased industrial beams are also a pain to make. You need 4 steel beams for 1 encased industrial beam. And again, it's 4 ingots to 1 steel beam, so that's, 16 iron ore. So you're already quadrupling the amount of iron ore and coal that you need. And again, that's not even taking into consideration the concrete that you need. And you're only making 6 per minute, so you need a good amount if you want to use a substantial amount of the level 4 belts. So very similar to the Mark II belts, you're going to want to, use these when you have to, and then once you have your bauxite set up with your aluminum alclad sheets and all that fancy stuff, this is definitely endgame stuff, very complicated. But this is the highest tier item, so eventually you're gonna be using this for all your stuff. So TLDR, skip over, or if you can, skip over the level 2 and level 4 belts. Please stick with the odd number belts. Whew, that got a little heated back there, didn't it? So just a reminder again, these are just tips. You are the master of your own factory. If you want to use Mark II belts, if you don't want to build on foundations, that's totally up to you. Play the game in the way that gives you the most fun and enjoyment. But these are just some tips, if you want to have nice organized factories, take them, leave them, whatever you feel. So, if you like what you saw today, definitely leave a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. I plan on making more of these in the future. And if you have a question, leave a comment or find me on Twitch. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/BillyTheDoor. That's all for me, and take care.